Good morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, out of Voice of Radio. And if you thought, well, hang on a second, well, see, you showed us a Leon card a minute ago. Leon's signature Pokemon is Charizard. Surely there must be a new Charizard. Yes. Yes, there is, ladies and gentlemen. There is a new Charizard coming, and I know I say this quite often about Charizards, and I'm not always right. But I really like this new Charizard. And even though I'm clearly going to hype this up as a great card and arguably the best Charizard we've had in a long time, maybe ever, because we've never had a great Charizard. Reshiram and Charizard I'm not counting because it's not really a Charizard card, it's a Reshiram and Charizard card. Even though I'm going to hype it up like that, and I'm telling you right at the start of the video I'm definitely going to, this might actually be worth it. Let's have a gander, shall we? So starting off then, we've got 170 HP, which is high for a stage 2. It's not phenomenal, but it's higher than we would usually see. Retreat cost of 3 is in that awkward space where Air Balloon will reduce your retreat cost, but it won't make it free. And you can't use buff padding to get extra HP, which is, you know, bad and sad and all of that stuff. Boo, hiss, etc. And you're weak to water, which, honestly, fine. Inteleon decks are running around here and there. Frostmoth is always threatening to make all of these water decks good, but as it stands at the moment, it's not a terrible weakness to have at all. And being a fire Pokemon is awesome. Its weakness on metal decks like Zacian, its weakness on grass decks like Rillaboom, that admittedly I'm not seeing a huge amount of play right now, but you never know. It means you got Welder to accelerate energy and Giant Half to search out that energy, and frankly, ladies and gentlemen, it's a very good time to be a fire Pokemon. Now, our translation comes from the lovely Antoine Boulet. One more apology for not saying that in the Cramorant video yesterday. I still feel a little bit guilty. Antoine's lovely, and I didn't mention it, and I feel bad about that. I do. I really do. And Charizard here is good. Now we start off with a really nice ability. Once during your turn, you may look at the top 3 cards of your deck, add one of these cards to your hand, and discard the rest. Cool. Now, this is actually weirdly good, specifically in a fire deck, because do remember that Fire Crystal will get free fire energy from your discard pile into your hand, as opposed to energy retrieval, which will only get 2. So that can actually be an advantage in that regard. I mean, you'd rather draw into them and then recover them later. I'm just saying if you do discard them, it's not the end of the world. And yeah, I know that this actually could be super awkward for a Stage 2 deck, because Stage 2 decks are generally wanting to use stuff like Rare Candy. And if you end up discarding them, it's going to make it more awkward to get your other Charizard rolling in the future. I understand how this could end up being awkward, but remember you get to save one of those free cards. And Pokemon can be recovered with Ordinary Rod, and so can Energy, and supporters can be recovered with Power Pad. So yes, I get that it's slightly awkward, but it's rarely going to end up being properly game-breaking because you can get an extra card. And actually, let's not focus on the ones you're discarding, let's focus on the one you're getting, because this lets you draw an extra card. You are one card better off than you were before, and you're picking the best card from those top 3. Bearing in mind, this does not have to be active, and it's not limited to once during your turn. So in theory, if you get multiple Charizard out, you can be using this ability multiple times during your turn. Now, there's always a question of how many cards you're going to discard, and the more you discard, the more you're eventually going to end up discarding something you really cannot part with, or really don't want to. But as it stands at the moment, this is awesome. I love this ability. It's a great ability. But it gets even better, because the attack, which Anton has translated as King's Blaze, the ability is Battle Savvy. Love the names on these. 2 fire energy, that ain't much. 100 damage. That sounds a bit low. Well, it does 50 more for each Leon card in your discard pile. Oh. Well, hang on a second. If you've got 4 Leon in your discard, then you're doing 300 damage. Oh. Yeah, that makes a bit of a difference, ladies and gentlemen. That makes a huge difference. You see, 300 damage for 2 energy is dumb. Like, proper job, over the top, silly dumb. Absolutely ridiculous. ridiculous, silly dumb. Like 300 damage is not something we see very often. Like Reshiram and Charizard can do 300 damage, but they can do 300 damage as their once per game GX attack on a free prize Pokemon. And even then it's only 300 damage when you actually go up to 6 fire energy, though it will go through any effects on the defending Pokemon. We see that Zacian, the 2 prize of a free energy, does 230 and can't attack the following turn. There are not many Pokemon that can do 300 damage. Now, admittedly, you only do 300 damage when you've got 4 Leon in your discard pile, but you know what? We've got ways of doing it. Don't forget that Quick Ball is still a thing. We're still playing that in all of our decks. So if we draw Leon, we can Quick Ball it into the discard. We can use Professor's Research Magnolia to discard our hand, including any of these we might have come across. Don't forget, we can always use stuff like Pokegear 3.0 to try and search this a little bit more easily and then discard it. And of course, the ability. Charizard's ability lets you look at the top 3 cards of your deck, put one in your hand and discard the others. So what you essentially do here is you discard the Leon. And I know you might be thinking, well, can you really guarantee you're going to have a Leon in the top 3 cards of your deck? And the answer is yes, you totally can, because Oranguru is still a thing. Oranguru lets you swap a card in your hand with the top card of your deck. So if you draw into a Leon that you want to discard, all you need to do here, if you haven't got something like a Quick Ball to discard it, you use Oranguru to put it on top of your deck. Bonus, you get to draw a card. And then you look at the top 3 cards of your deck. And the great thing here is you're looking at the top 3, you're discarding 2 of them, but you know that one of them is going to be Leon. So essentially it turns your ability into an Acrobike plus discarding Leon, which I know we've all had bad Acrobikes in the past, but it's nowhere near as scary. And this is how we end up with a Charizard that's starting to look absolutely ridiculous. Hey, at this stage I should probably remind you what Leon does. You see, Leon is that supporter card I showed you a couple hours ago that lets you do an extra 30 damage on all of your Pokemon this turn. Yep. That's kind of ridiculous, ladies and gentlemen, because now you've got 3 of these in your discard pile. You play Leon, you've now got 4 in your discard pile, but you get to do an extra 30 damage, so this turn you're doing 330 damage. And then you can do stuff like power padding just 1 Leon back, so that then when you draw into it, you're doing 330 damage all over again. And this is huge. And it's 2 energy. I mean, Eternatus attacks for 2 energy, and a lot of those decks are just manually attaching. Though, of course, Eternatus V's attack does accelerate an energy, and that is actually super useful, so you have been warned. But then again, we got Welder. So you can just welder the 2 energy onto here and you're absolutely fine. Obviously, do remember that you cannot play a Welder on the same turn that you play a Leon, unless you've also played a Lieutenant Surge's strategy, and at that stage we're getting a little bit awkward. I absolutely adore this. I keep thinking we're having the best Charizard ever. I keep showing you the best Charizard we've ever had, and meaning it sincerely, incidentally. I told you that the Charizard that we got in Team Up might end up being the best Charizard ever, and I meant it. And that did end up getting 3rd place at a giant Pokemon tournament over in Japan, though admittedly it was played by Shintaro Ito, who might be the best Pokemon player ever. He's certainly one of them, so it's not necessarily that fair a comparison. Although, still needs to be pointed out. And I've shown you that Charizard V Max, and I told you that that one could end up being the best Charizard ever. Although, admittedly, I liked Charizard V Max a lot more when it was revealed than I do nowadays. I think the metagame has moved on in a way that is unfavourable, but I still like Charizard V Max. I still think it's a very cool card. I like this more than I like them. Sure, you've got to discard your supporter cards, but I really don't think that is a game-breaking thing. Remember, discarding 4 of them means you do 300 damage, but you don't need to do 300 damage turn 1. you can do an awful lot less. You can do 150, 200 damage turn 1. By turn 1, I mean like turn 2 after your opponent's had one turn. Remember, this is a stage 2. You are going to have to evolve it up. You have been warned. But then you can get up to 300. Now, in Expanded, this just goes dumb because we've still got Battle Compressor. If you can get this set up quick enough in Expanded, you can literally turn 1 Battle Compressor, free Leon, and then you're hitting minimum 250. That's a little bit silly. We're not getting Battle Compressor back. Let's be completely clear about that. It is worth noting you can use Magneton to just search free of these immediately, and then you can go ahead and discard them. Although Magneton, you do have to give up a prize to do so. And it is worth noting that you can play Misty's here, Misty's Favor, which will let you search for free supporter cards, which could be free Leon that you then discard in another way. They would be possible. Not sure they're the best options, but they are options. If you want to search out free Leon super quickly, you can do it in that regard. Also, if you use Magneton, you can also go behind on prizes to activate Lieutenant Surge's strategy if that's what you're into. I adore this Charizard. I genuinely think this is really, really good. And I've been burned, pun intended, by saying that about Charizard in the past. But I'm sorry, I look at this and all I can think is 300 damage for 2 energy on a single prize Pokemon. It's worth having to get that stage 2 out. It's worth having to get those Leon in the discard pile, because actually, I think this is going to work out pretty gosh darn nicely. But now, ladies and gentlemen, I want to know... Oh, wait, no, score. 4 Wassies. I'm giving this 4 Wassies. I think it's good. I am definitely testing this. But I want to know what you think. So let me know in the comment section, would you? Go nuts. Be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at The Wassie, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCG Radio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that good stuff, head on over to patreon.com/PTCG Radio, where you can do exactly that. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.